Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Robin and my Instagram handle is MotherPixels. Today I will share with you my editing workflow in Lightroom so that I can teach you how I achieve those very punchy, colorful photos that you see on my Instagram feed. But most importantly, I will teach you two very special tricks that I use to create epic sunrises and sunsets when I show up at a location and there isn't really that much color. So on this very first photo, you will see that there wasn't really a lot of color just in this raw file, but I will teach you how I use split toning to create a very orange and epic sunset here at this particular location. And on the second photo, I will show you how I strategically use the radial filter in order to add an extra layer of warmth and color on this image, which made it way more dramatic than the original photo. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start off with our Emerald Lake photo, and I'll teach you how to get that beautiful sunset that I captured there, and then I will take you to a sunrise at Vermilion that was pretty colorless, but I will also teach you how to use the radial filter in this particular photo to create an extra bright orangey yellow tone in that area. So stay tuned for that. So first, let's start off with our Emerald Lake photo, and let's reset that image. First, we're going to crop it into 4:5, which is the Instagram crop. That's the preferred crop on Instagram for shares. So once we've cropped the image, we go to our white balance and we choose cloudy, and you can already see more of like a pinker hue in the image. Then we're going to go and bring down our highlights, and you can just see how that transforms the sky in the photo. Then we're going to bring up our shadows, not too much because it flattens out the image, but just enough to lighten up the photo a little bit. Right about there. Then we're going to go to our whites, and you hold down the Option key on your Mac and you slide it to the right until you see a little bit of like white ants on your photo. So see right there, right there, that was the perfect one. And then you do the same thing with your blacks, but you do it to the left. Right there. Okay, that's about right. Okay, now we're going to slide down to our clarity. Now, I like clarity to create these little micro contrasts. If you take it to the extreme, it's going to give you very gross, unrealistic. To the far left, it's like this beautiful fantasy soft photo. I like photos with a little bit of punch, so I will slide to about 10, which is my norm. Then vibrance, I always like to go between 25 and 30 to give the photo a little bit of that punch and color. Saturation, I don't really play with that a lot because it can give you a very unrealistic color cast, and I don't like it. Then we're going to bring down additional highlights, and you can see just in the sky how it brings out more details in the sky just by sliding that to the left a little bit more. Our saturation will probably, no, not the oranges. I want those canoes to pop, so I'll slide to the right to make those canoes extra punchy because they are, after all, my subject. So about 17 is pretty good, and around 20, that'll make the canoes pop a little bit. Now here's where the magic happens in the split toning. So you click on your highlights and you see you can go pretty crazy there, but I just want my highlights to have a little bit of that orange hue. So right about there, that's pretty good. And then we're going to go to our shadows as well and click on the shadows, and if we wanted to have more like a bluish purplish tone, we would go and use our eyedropper tool there, but I do still want the photo to be kind of orange yellowish, so I'll use a softer complementary color for the highlights. And here you can see the before, which is a little bit blue, and then the after, which is pinkish, more orange, creating that more sunset, dramatic sunset effect. Now for my sharpening, my go-to is always between 70 and 80. And I never like my sky to be sharpened. So then I go to my mask tool and I slide that to the right, holding down the Option key. And I just want basically my mountain selected. Now when my sharpen is 80, I like to keep my luminance at 20. So they should both equal right about 100. And for me, that's the perfect combination. Now here we're going to talk about chromatic aberration. From just your naked eye, you won't see much of a difference when you tick that box, but I will show you where this actually makes a very big difference, and it's in the details. So here you can see a weird kind of like green situation happening there. As soon as you click it off, it goes away. It's kind of like this weird outline that is around your image. So just, it's a simple click, it gets rid of it. So always click that off. And then finally, we're going to come down to our highlights, our vignetting, and bring that in so that the attention goes to the center. There's just darken the edges a little bit. Then calibration, slide that to the right a little bit for a bit of a red tone. And there you have it, pretty much the before and after transformation. For my local adjustments, I'm going to bring my tool brush and my clarity at around 35, and it just gives the canoes and the cabin a little bit more punch, makes them stand out, makes them sharper. And that is pretty much well it. Now, if you wanted to add a little bit more detail in the sky, I recommend you use your graduated filter, bring it down. And then this is just a little secret. If you want extra details in the sky, you bring, well, let's reset that by holding down the option and clicking the effect, and bring down and increase the dehaze. And dehaze just brings out extra details, right? So if you go to the far right, you'll see how crazy that looks. So if you just want a little bit of extra details, play around with that. I think the sky is pretty good as it is, so I'll just leave that well enough alone. So that looks pretty good, before and after, right? Pretty epic transformation right there. All right, so here's our second transformation, and in this photo, I'm going to show you a special trick that you can use with your radial filter to add extra color and punch and orange yellow goodness to that area. So we're going to reset our photo and start from scratch. We're going to do our cropping, 4x5 for the gram as per usual. I'm going to center it. Then we are going to go to our white balance and choose cloudy. That didn't really do much. The photo is pretty colorless. So we're going to slide our temperature, but it doesn't really do that much. Our highlights again are going to bring out all that extra amazing detail in the sky. We're going to bring up our shadows practically to 100 simply because the photo is so dark, and then hold down our whites with our option key. Again, when we see those little white ants right there, that's exactly where we want to stop, and you can already see the before and after of that. Now we're going to go back down to our clarity and do our usual, 10, 15. We don't want to go all crazy on either end, so about 15, that's good. Vibrance between my 25 and 30 is my comfort spot. Then with our saturation, I don't really like to mess with that a lot because again, you don't have a lot of control over the colors. Bring down the highlights again, and please note the details on the left hand side of those white clouds. It just brings out the details in those white clouds. Now for our saturation, we're going to increase that punch with the oranges and the yellows, which is the colors that we're trying to extract from this photo. But again, at the split toning is where the majority of the magic is going to happen. So let's click on our highlights. That is already looking significantly better. So let's play around and find the right one. That looks pretty good. Again, with our shadows. See, I still want it to be like a complementary lower level shade of the highlight, so that looks about right for me. And there you have the before and after of the split toning. It's just a great magical tool, very, very powerful. So back down to our sharpening, we go to my 70 to 80. My masking again, let's get rid of the sharpening in the sky, or luminance. This again between 20 and 30. Has to equal around 100 for my sharpening and luminance. Again, let's click off the remove the chromatic aberration, just because the devil's in the details, and we're going to enable profile corrections. I use my wide angle lens, which does create some distortion, so I use my Sigma 10 to 20. So you enable the profile corrections and it fixes any lens distortion. Finally, we go down to our vignetting, just touch there because the image is already pretty dark. Our calibration, again trying to bring out those reds and oranges, so I'm going to slide it a little bit to the right and increase the saturation in those colors ever so slightly in that area. So that's good for my general adjustments. Now for the moment you've been waiting, here we're going to use the radial filter. So let's create a big giant radial filter that's going to go where the mountain is, where we have a little bit of that color, but this time we're going to magnify that color. So let's reset by holding down the option key, clicking on effect. Now in that radial filter, I'm going to bring up the warmth, so my temperature, I'm going to slide that to the right, and you can already see a dramatic difference just by sliding the temperature to the right and making that area warm. It's very important that your feather is at 50, okay? Make sure that your feather is at 50. I'm going to show you what happens when it's not. So let's say we put our feathering in at 0. It creates a very obvious circle in the middle. You can actually see a circle. So the feathering at 50 actually creates like a very just gradual kind of glow outwards outside of the circle where it is. Make sure as well that after you are at 50 you hit invert, because if not, the effect is going to impact the area outside of the circle, and you want it inside of the circle. So you hit invert so that the changes are applied inside of the circle. Now for extra color, go to color and then use your eyedropper tool and just select if you want extra orange or extra yellow inside of the circle. You can select it. It's already pretty yellow to me, so I'm going to go not too crazy on this, but just to show you the effect that it has, that color right there. And I'm going to go with a little bit of like a nice soft yellow, just to add that extra yellow there. Now I don't want that to be applied on the mountain, so I'll select luminance. I will hold down the range with my option, and I'm going to slide that to the right, and then anything that gets dark or gets black, the effect will not be applied on the black. So the mountain right there is pretty well selected for me, so that's good. That's really good. Yeah, you can just, I'm going to brighten up the picture a little bit. It's too dark for my taste. I'm going to brighten it up by sliding the exposure to the right a little bit, just about 15, 20, to make the photo jump out a little bit more at you, make it happier. And that looks pretty good, you guys. Quick and easy and dirty, but I created a pretty great sunrise out of a colorless sky. And there you have it. That's your final image. Ready to post. And that was it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this tutorial and that you learned some new tips and tricks. If you liked this video, hit subscribe onto my channel, and also make sure that you follow me on Instagram for more tips and tricks on photography.